friends, Pastor Doug here, and again I'm in the worship center just like last week. We just recorded for worship for this Sunday morning, and so I've kind of been immersed in setting up for that and practicing it in this room for the last several days, so worship's really been on my brain. When I read Psalm 80, the thing that really jumped out to me was this subtitle, According to Lilies, or Set to the Lilies, and that was kind of my cue that there were other psalms that had been set to this same tune. So I wanted to look those up and find those, and if you do too, there's Psalms 45, 60, and 69. And just a quick insight from a worship perspective, but our hymnals today reveal the exact same practice. So for example, I'll show you a screenshot here of a Baptist hymnal's alphabetical index of tunes, and you can see here that many tunes have multiple hymn texts set to them. So I just wanted to show you here how the tune Austrian Hymn has 3 different texts that are hymns of their own, which are called Word of God Across the Ages. The second is We Are Called to Be God's People, and probably most famously, Glorious Things of Thee Are Spoken. So that just means different words are used to create unique songs, but with the exact same tune or melody. And it probably sounds like I'm nerding out right now, which I kind of am, but just bear with me. The concept's not just confined to religious music, and this is kind of a goofy example, but just think about how the alphabet song that we use to teach children their ABCs is the same exact tune as the nursery rhymes Ba Ba Black Sheep or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star that my wife Taylor and I are singing to our little daughter Charlotte right now. So I think it's really interesting how God designed music to just be such a powerful vehicle that drives us towards mental ownership and memorization. You know, words set to music tend to be locked into our memories in what seems like almost this permanent way. Like I'm sure many of you have seen video of Alzheimer's patients who can't remember their own family members but can remember every verse of Amazing Grace and How Great Thou Art. So as I read Psalm 80, I saw 2 different metaphors being used, and I want to unpack those for us today. The first metaphor is that God is our good shepherd, and the second metaphor is Israel as a vine and the Son of Man as the vine. So beginning in verse 1, we see God as our shepherd, which is prophetic of Christ as our good shepherd today. I mean, just think of Jesus trying to drive home the point to the Pharisees in John chapter 10 that he is the good shepherd. Jesus says emphatically, and maybe even with like a divine frustration or exasperation, I am the good shepherd. Jesus says in John chapter 10 verse 11, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. And again in verse 15, Jesus repeats himself. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. So church, just like the writer of Psalm 80, we need to remind ourselves of just who our good shepherd is. Like Asaph, the psalmist, writes in verse 1, he's the one enthroned upon the cherubim, shining forth. So throughout Psalm 80, the recurring refrain or chorus of the psalm really sets the tone. We read this same text 3 different times. Restore us, O God, let your face shine, that we may be saved. You know, the prayer that God's face would shine upon us reminds me of the blessing that God gave Aaron to then give to his people in Numbers chapter 6. And whether you know it or not, if you've heard Pastor Michael preach before, you've probably heard that. And spoiler alert, you'll probably hear it again this Sunday when Pastor Michael preaches. So, like I mentioned before, the second metaphor is of Israel as a vine. So starting in verse 8, but I want to look more specifically at verses 14 and 15, and also verse 17. So verse 14 and verse 15 say, Turn again, O God of hosts, look down from heaven and see. Have regard for this vine, the stock that your right hand planted, and for the son whom you made strong for yourself. Did you catch that reference to a vine, but a vine that's separate from the rest of the vineyard, which gets burned down and ravaged? And in verse 17, we read another reference to this same son, but now he's called the Son of Man. But let your hand be on the man of your right hand, the Son of Man whom you have made strong for yourself. Then we shall not turn back from you. Give us life, and we will call upon your name. So guys, if you want to know who the man of God's right hand is, go read Romans chapter 8. I think this is certainly a reference to the Messiah, and Jesus' favorite name for himself seemed to be the Son of Man while he was here on the earth. and that was not lost on the Jews. Jesus said, "I am the vine." And I can't help but wonder if Psalm 80, sung to this tune that we mentioned before, the lilies, wasn't ringing in someone's ears while they watched Jesus begin to establish his kingdom as both the good shepherd and the true vine. And, we can't know that for sure, but it just makes me curious. So while we await our great and final rescue, when the Son of Man comes in the clouds with great power and glory, we should profess just like the psalmist, "We shall not turn back from you, no matter what the world throws at us." Guys, we have to persevere in him and through him. Without Jesus, there is no salvation. And there are a lot of evil people who will try to shepherd you and lead you astray in this life. Their entire industry is built around that. So I would just encourage you guys to lean on the shepherds, the small S shepherds here at Hutto Bible. Lean on your small group shepherds as well. But guys, remember that there's only one good shepherd, and that's the chief shepherd, and his name is Jesus. He's the only shepherd who has ever laid down his life for his sheep. So I love you guys. Love you, Hutto Bible Church. I miss y'all. Be sure to wear your masks. Be exemplary in the way that you represent yourselves as Christ followers. And I'm really looking forward to worshiping with you guys on Sunday morning. All right, see you later.